So a very good morning, everyone. My name is Kuek. I am the new Vice President in the Asia Pacific region, and I am leading the new Asia Pacific hub based in Singapore. I think Niha did a great job in explaining some of the potential developments in the world of the internet. She mentioned the new GTLD program as well. Let me continue on that theme and talk more about the new GTLD program, give you an update, tell you how ICANN is involved in that and how we want to be more engaged in the region. And we can have a discussion after that. So even before I begin, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I've been in the job for 2.5 months, so I'm brand new. On my 4th day of work, I traveled to Mumbai to attend the SANOC, the South Asia Network Operators Group conference. And that was really exciting to me, for me to be able to come to India, come to South Asia so early in my tenure, because the potential in India here is very exciting. Yesterday, we were with Vicky, talking about Intranet to Equinet, where the next billion users are going to come from this country. So I think it's very timely that we are having this conversation. I think it's exciting to see people in the industry, players in the ecosystem come together to have this sharing platform, and thank you for having me here with you. So let me talk a little bit more about ICANN, and we have a ICANN veteran here as well. I'm sure there are more in the room. I just can't quite see in the light. But let me just briefly run through what ICANN does. So ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And basically what we're looking to do is that when you have unique names and numbers within the domain name system, there's someone to run it. It sounds like a static job where once you get it right, all you have to do is to keep running it. But it might be a little bit more than that. The internet has to evolve. We have to think of new ways for the internet to serve our end users. The new GTLD program is one of them. But think about internationalized domain names, for example, IDNs. So India has 22 official languages, and that's just the official languages. Think about the potential in bringing people on board through a desktop device or on a mobile device outside of the cities if we can give content, if we can make information accessible in the other Indian languages. So ICANN, apart from doing the operational work of maintaining the domain name system, is really looking into the community for new policy development. And so, just to run through the points on the slide itself, there is no one person, there's no one company, there's no one organization or government that runs the internet. I think someone was asking me whether ICANN was the governing body for domain names, and you know, that I would say that's not an accurate representation. We think of us as a facilitator in making sure that policy development happens. So instead of having any one agency or body, government run the internet, we have all of these come together through what we call a multi-stakeholder model so that we can engage in open debate to set policies. For example, whether or not we should have the new GTLD program run ahead. We also are having a discussion on whether some GTLDs applications should go through. For example, there is .ram, .ram that's put in by a company, and that would be something that is India specific, and people in this room probably can feel and understand why this is an important discussion to have. There's also an application for .amazon that we need to talk through because it is both a territory and a geography as well as a company name. So we really are relying on the community to guide us in the process for new GTLD applications as well as the other policies. So as I was mentioning, ICANN coordinates unique identifiers so that computers and devices can find one another. Through this pretty crowded slide, This gives you a graphic of where we come together. There are the resellers like yourselves, as well as relationships, your relationships with the registrants, and these go up to the registrars and the registry operators, and then we hope to partner with all of you in such a setting. Now, using our registrar accreditation agreement, we manage relationships with more than 1,000 accredited registrars. And what we try to do is that we try to conduct contract and policy training through our outreach and regional programs. We also audit and enforce ICANN's contracts and policies so that your end users, your registrants out there get the protection you need, they need. And as businesses, you get that credibility in providing that service to the registrants and the end users. And what we hope to do through this ecosystem is to build and maintain a strategic relationship with all the players you see in this graphic. Now let me briefly talk about the situation in India and how this fits in vis-a-vis what we're observing in the rest of the world. Now, out of 1,000 ICANN accredited registrars globally, 21 are in India. And just by basis of comparison, I think we see India pushing ahead vis-a-vis other countries. So if you look at the entire continent of Africa, for example, there are only 5. But there's really a lot of upside and there's a lot of potential for growth. If you compare with one of our neighbors here, there are 44 in China. So I think that there really is potential for growth in this area. Now, the benefits of accreditation from ICANN include obtaining domain names directly from the registry, which may result in lower costs. And I'm happy to have this conversation offline with you on this. What are some of the observations we have for the Indian market? Now, we think that India is poised for an internet boom. We are so bullish about India. We are so excited about the market that yesterday our CEO, Mr. Fadi Shahadi, was in Delhi to announce an agreement with CDEC on a DNS Security Institute to be based in Bangalore. We are very excited about the market. India is likely to have the second largest user base in the world. You don't need me to tell you this. You're in this room because you know that. But there's a lot of room to grow. As internet penetration picks up, there's only going to be more business opportunities. Only 35% of businesses in India offer online services, and internet adoption led by young people are coming through mobile devices, so we are seeing a leapfrogging trend here in India. Based on our observations out there, there are some challenges to internet growth in India that we might want to be mindful of in order to grow the pie. There's the issue of improving internet infrastructure, lowering the costs of access and use. As you bring down the cost, you get more people on board. There's the issue of raising digital literacy in the country, extending the offering of apps and services in the country, as well as improving the business environment. Some of this we've picked up from studies that other people have done, such as McKinsey, and I think this really provides us with food for thought on where we want to take this conversation. Now, I talked about the 22 official languages just now, as well as the interest in internationalized domain names, IDNs. We think that language barriers are being eased through more localized content and internationalized domain names. Now, today, not one Indian language is amongst the top 10 on the internet, but we are very bullish, amongst others, about the potential in terms of the local language market for India. And we think that the next wave of Indian adoption of the internet will be through the local languages. I think Neha spoke about this briefly just now, and I think there's a lot of excitement about the new GTLDs. We have passed through the initial evaluation phase. To date, 1,745 applications have passed initial evaluation. You're seeing a flurry of activity, and we expect the first delegation of the strings to be coming on board really quickly. We're really gathering feedback. We have concluded the first round of new GTLD applications. What are we going to do differently or the same with the second round or third round, or is this going to be a new application process that is going to be sustained and we stop calling them rounds? These are things that we're thinking about and we're getting feedback on. Now, let me give you a little bit more background about the new GTLD program, just running through this all very quickly because I'm sure the audience here knows a lot about the program. This is an initiative that we hope will enable the introduction of unlimited generic top-level domain names or extensions, both in ASCII and in IDNs, as I spoke about, in the domain name space. And this is managed by us. Now, what we were hoping to do through this initiative is to promote competition. It really means that anyone here can run their own registry. We've seen exciting developments where people want to start things like .cities or .brand, and they can be registries, and people can pick and choose amongst the different registries on service levels, attractive contractual relationships, and we really want to widen the market so that more potential can happen. I think there is also the potential for new innovation to happen and experimentation. Frankly, we come into this without entirely knowing what the potential is out there. This is a great experiment. The world has never done it before. ICANN certainly has never done this before in terms of launching new GTLDs. Is this going to change the way that search algorithms are written because the product offering out there is going to be different? Is this going to change the way that companies that we know will do their branding and customer outreach out there? Will Unilever or Procter & Gamble or Coca-Cola or Google, if you can end something with .google, how does that change the game? We don't know the answers, but we are certain that by allowing the new GTLD program to happen, we're allowing new innovation and experimentation. We're also hoping that this will open up consumer choice, that for your customers, for registrants, they no longer have to stick to some kind of formula that ends with .com or .org or .net or .edu. We think this will open up a lot of potential. And the new GTLDs we are really hoping is to enable organizations to create stronger ties to the community and their brand. So instead of having something that has to end with a slash and then something else, we are really shortening domain names and making sure that the branding experience from marketing all the way to the website experience becomes more consistent. Now let's see what we have in the local market. We have new GTLD applications for Hindi, for .com, .net, .org. And also, the generic new GTLD applications that have passed in initial evaluation include .ooo and .ping. So let me give you a snapshot of the players that will be more familiar to you in terms of the players in India that have gone for new GTLD applications. So some of these will be familiar to you, such as Airtel, Bharti, Star, Tata Motors. And we're just watching to see how people are going to bring new innovations in terms of the hosting space after we come up with the new GTLD program. I also want to talk a little bit more about where ICANN is headed as an organization. Now, we're hoping that ICANN goes out to the world rather than have the world come in and participate in the process. I think in our 15-year history, we started in 1998. In our history, we tended to be low profile. We tended to be based in LA as a not-for-profit. We're really trying to make sure that as the internet gets global adoption, in our methodology in reaching out to everyone, we are really starting to have that globalized nature in our conversations. So I talked about the DNS Security Institute that is going to be based in Bangalore. That's a world first. Instead of picking this up in any of the usual suspects, we're picking a fresh new face to bring technology to the world, and we're very excited that India is the platform for this. The idea of breaking up our hub operations from Los Angeles to have 3 hubs globally across different time zones from LA to Istanbul to Singapore is meant to do this as well. What this means in terms of immediate deliverables that you see is that now if you want to talk to ICANN, you no longer have to stay up or wake up early to talk to someone to LA. There's a Singapore office, and if you go to the ICANN website, there is a way to get to us. There's also an email alias that you can get to us with any questions or feedback and have someone talk to you in your local time zone and with a better understanding of the regional nuances. So I'm talking about a renewed focus on internationalization. And in terms of operational excellence, we think that by coming closer to the market, by having conversations like this, by shortening the distances between ICANN and players in the ecosystem like yourself, we can bring about better service to the community. And we're evolving the multi-stakeholder model. I think our observation at the big ICANN meetings is that we see maybe participants in the Western world being very active in terms of the policy process, in terms of having these conversations. And we're seeing, and what we're hoping to have is to make sure that participation in the APAC region really comes out. Because if you think about it, if we're talking about IDN adoption or local language adoption for the domain name space, we really need Indian participation, Indian voices to come inform ICANN and help ICANN understand the nuances and the technology and the adoption that needs to follow in order for us to open up this brand new market within India. And no one else can have this conversation. We need people on the ground, people who are touching consumers directly in India to help in the policy-making process. So there are many ways to become more involved in ICANN. I mentioned that we are not-for-profit. I mentioned that we are really a facilitator to get feedback from the community to help our process. There are many ways to become involved in ICANN. The board members, for example, are picked by the community. It's dynamic. We have a lot of renewal in terms of board memberships. People like yourselves can be community participants. We also make sure that in a multi-stakeholder model, governments also get a say. So instead of multilateral frameworks like the United Nations, for example, we are happy to have all the governments come on board, but we want to make sure that governments have an equal voice with businesses, with civil society, so it wouldn't be a top-down approach. We're looking for a bottom-up approach where people like yourselves who touch registrants and consumers directly get a say on an equal footing together with governments as well as civil society. I'm also looking for opportunities in the region, so you can come join ICANN. There are working groups on many technologies. So for IDN adoption, Indian language, for example, we welcome people to form working groups. And also, we're looking for partners to have L-root nodes in the region as well. In India, we have 3 root server instances in the country. By comparison, I think Brazil has 22 instances. In India, we don't yet have an L-root instance, which we think that by expanding that network, we are going to have greater resiliency and stability in the internet. I'll be happy to look for partners to replicate L-root instances within the country. This is a $0 contract that ICANN enters with a local partner. There's a lot of potential out there. And I think for all these things that I'm mentioning here, if you go onto the website or you reach out to us, and we have our contact details on the website, or if we meet in the hallways later, there are various ways for people to engage, and we're really hoping to see more participants come on board. So we talk at many of the at-large structures that we partner with ICANN. So I mentioned CDEC, in which we entered an agreement with yesterday. There's also the Computer Society of India and the Internet Society are partners that we work in close collaboration across the world, and India is no exception. So in summary, we're very bullish about India. We're very excited about India. We think that India is poised for exponential internet growth, but you don't need me to tell you this. You're in this room because you know this. We're also excited about the many initiatives that we have, such as the new GTLD program. We're not saying that it's perfect. We're not saying that the application process is the easiest. At the same time, ICANN staff, we don't write the rules for the implementation of the new GTLD program or the application process for the new GTLD program. We're really looking for people to come on board, join us in the community to help us draft this together. We are also very excited about the potential of local language and how that can increase access in India and in other countries. And this really is about the internationalized domain names and the IDNs that I spoke about for a while. So we hope that you can join us in shaping the future of the internet.